forces launched a drone strike on a cargo ship that was passing in the Strait of Hormuz. The strike stopped traffic in the strait. Oil prices jumping after the attack would have fallen below $70 a barrel this morning. All of it, though, contradicting the president, who just hours earlier and later claimed that the strait was open as he praised the talks. But Iran has imposed new conditions forbidding ships from traveling outside of its approved shipping lanes. Now, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has also made it clear that if Iran tries to interfere with ships passing through the strait, that would be a violation of the agreement that the president just reached with Iran. So now this is raising many questions on where this goes from here, Whit.
All right, we'll stand by for news on that. And Rachel, turning to the Supreme Court now, the administration won some victories on immigration.
Yeah, the Supreme Court handed the Trump administration two major victories on immigration. Let's start with the first. The Supreme Court, in a 6-3 ruling, cleared the way for the Trump administration.
Let's get to some breaking news from the White House right now. This is a post from the president on Truth Social. It reads here, the Islamic Republic of Iran shot at least 4 one-way attack drones at ships transversing the Strait of Hormuz. One of the drones solidly hit the upper deck of a large and very expensive cargo-carrying ship. Damage was done, but the ship was able to proceed on its way. We knocked down 3 other drones. Obviously, this, again, from the president, is a foolish violation of our ceasefire agreement. I want to bring in CBS News White House and politics correspondent Ed O'Keefe. Ed, thank you so much for your time here. I think that's the wrong title for you, but you know what? We're just going to move on. And the latest here from the White House. What are you hearing from that post about from President
Trump? I haven't heard anything else just yet, Mugo, but that is an indication he's certainly been brought up to speed about what transpired yesterday. That he calls it a violation of the ceasefire agreement, then of course begs the question, well, now what? And we'll have to wait and see. As we understand it, the talks have been continuing to whatever extent they can, but the president had warned, should there be this kind of incursion, they might have to rethink what exactly to do. As we understand it, this was a commercial vessel, and there were not necessarily Americans on board, although I don't know that we know that for certain. He has made clear in the past, should there be any attack on U.S. military forces, especially in the region, that would merit a more significant military response. So we'll be asking here at the White House for more clarification on whether there might be more of a follow-up here or perhaps some kind of a pause in the talks. We are about, let's say, just shy of 2 weeks worth of diplomatic time here in the 60-day window that the president and Iran agreed to. So we'll see what more we learn as the afternoon continues.
In the meantime, Ed, we know that the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, he met with the president yesterday. This is after the president refused to sign that landmark housing bill. So where do things stand right now with that situation?
So Congress has, the way it works with legislation that gets passed by the president is unless he touches it with a veto pen, it becomes law after 10 days. And so they are officially sending it in the direction of the White House for the president to either sign it or to just let it languish and eventually become law. The hope that Republicans especially, and Democrats also had, was that there would have been more formal acknowledgement of a pretty significant bipartisan achievement dealing with an issue that is really roiling many communities across the country, many Americans, and that is the issue of affordable housing, access to it, who owns it, and who can buy it. After months of careful negotiations over this, Republicans and Democrats in both chambers overwhelmingly passed it. The goal was to have the president sign it this past Wednesday. He blew up those plans because he wants Republicans instead to focus on passing what's called the Save America Act, which would enact a series of essentially national standards for voting across the country, including significant limits on mail-in ballots, which several states use and several different people, depending on their situation, are eligible to use, and then mandate voter ID laws across the country, especially in areas where many have argued that might be too onerous a step to take advantage of your right to vote. So Republicans have told them the votes for that don't exist, sir. Some conservatives in the House held up business in the House, so they all went home for the weekend. They'll be back next week, and we'll see if in the coming days the House and the Senate can work with the president to say, look, we've got a lot of other election year priorities we need to work on. We can keep trying to build support towards that Save America Act, but let's not completely upend the agenda on something that Senate Republicans at least have told them they don't have the support to pass.
Okay, we'll see what comes next. Ed O'Keefe at the White House for us today.
A new route for ships to get through the Strait of Hormuz appears to be getting tankers out to the open seas. Today, a series of tankers led by one called the Stoic Warrior left the Persian Gulf and followed the coastlines of the United Arab Emirates and then later Oman, going around the Musandam Peninsula before heading into the Gulf of Oman. Now, Iran has been very upset about this. Its Revolutionary Guard, that paramilitary force which wields so much power in the country, had told ships that only it could authorize them to leave the Strait of Hormuz. But this new route that's been opened with Oman, as well as the United Nations agency known as the International Maritime Organization, is allowing these ships to get out. We have seen an uptick in the number of ships getting out, the highest numbers ever, actually, with some 70 getting out in the last day or so. And that's nowhere near what it was before the war, but it's showing that things are kind of getting back to normal. Now, there's a lot of things that could go wrong. The tensions between the United States and Iran remain high, even with this interim deal having been signed to try to seek a permanent end to the war. And meanwhile, we are also seeing global crude oil prices drop. They touched briefly to pre-war levels today, just showing how much the markets believe that the worst is over, but there's still a lot of challenges ahead.
All right, while I was playing with my hair.
We do want to bring you an update right now to some breaking news that we brought to you moments ago as Barack Ravid posting this saying senior American official U.S. military attacked Iranian targets in the Strait of Hormuz area. And Reuters is confirming what Barack Ravid with Axios is reporting, saying the U.S. military conducted strikes against Iran on Friday, Central Command said in a statement, adding that U.S. aircraft struck Iranian missile and drone storage locations and coastal radar sites after Tehran's attack on a commercial ship in the Strait of Hormuz. Fox's Jennifer Griffin also confirming this, reporting senior U.S. official tells me U.S. military has begun striking Iranian targets in response to Iranian breach of MOU and ceasefire and attacks on shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. Central Command posting a statement saying the U.S. Central Command forces conducted strikes against Iran June 26 as a powerful response to yesterday's attack on a command ship that was transiting the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. aircraft struck Iranian missile and drone storage locations and coastal radar sites after Iran hit MV Ever Lovely on June 25th with a one-way attack drone. The Singapore-flagged cargo ship was exiting the Strait of Hormuz along the Omani coast at the time of Iran's attack. The unwarranted aggression against commercial shipping by Iranian forces clearly violated the ceasefire. Furthermore, Iran's dangerous behavior determined freedom of navigation as commerce increasingly flows through the vital international trade corridor. U.S. Central Command goes on to say CENTCOM forces continue to provide safe passage coordination and support to commercial vessels transiting the strait. The U.S. military remains present and vigilant to ensure all aspects of the agreement with Iran are adhered to, obeyed, and in full force and effect. So once again, this breaking news coming in as we're learning the U.S. military has conducted retaliatory strikes against Iran. A live look right now at the maritime traffic there in the Strait of Hormuz. This response, these retaliatory strikes come as U.S. President Donald Trump had said earlier today that Iran is to blame for carrying out a drone strike on a cargo ship in the Strait.
All right. But let's be honest, everybody. Nobody watching geopolitics believes that this story is really about peace. It's about shipping lanes, it's about oil routes, energy markets, and who gets to control the world's economic arteries, basically. Whenever politicians start talking about stability, investors start checking oil prices. The G7 summit produced some of the week's most viral images. We went over that the week prior as well. There were awkward interactions between Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron, and it dominated social media. I don't even know why. Who cares? Photos featuring Trump, Giorgia Meloni, and other world leaders sparked endless speculation about body language, alliances, and who was really basically leading the room. Meanwhile, several G7 leaders publicly backed Trump's efforts to secure that Iran agreement and reopen global shipping routes.
I have already said, and I reiterate, that I do not intend to keep fueling this dispute. I believe that our bilateral work with the United States must return to normal. This is also what I said yesterday in the Council of Ministers regarding upcoming appointments. Clearly, I believe that Foreign Minister Tajani was right in the immediate term to cancel his visit to Washington to send a signal. But once the message has got through, there is no need, let's say, to take it any further, starting precisely with the reception at Villa Taverna, a traditional event that takes place every year to mark July 4th. But generally speaking, because I'm not changing my mind, okay? I'm not changing my mind. I'm reading a lot of speculation about what Italian foreign policy will be now. It will be the same as it has been for the last 80 years. I mean, I'm not changing my mind about how important it is to maintain a strong relationship between the United States and Europe, which is clearly the foundation of a significant part of the strength of the West. I hope not. I believe not. Frankly, I don't see any repercussions. It seems to me that, in fact, our activities and our relations have been going well in recent weeks and months, both at an institutional and an economic level.
All right, and here's the next video.
President Trump meeting with Egypt's president this morning at the G7 summit as he sells the U.S.-Iran agreement to world leaders as a positive step forward.
It's a very strong deal. Nobody knows what it is, but it's very strong. And most people seem to be very happy. Who's really happy is the market, because the market's gone up thousands of points over the last 4 or 5 days since hearing about it. And the strait is going to be opening. It's already partially open.
The text of the deal to end the war with Iran has not been made public, with an in-person signing scheduled for Friday in Switzerland. That's drawing criticism from Democratic lawmakers.
He needs to stop keeping America in the dark after more than 100 days of bloodshed.
I just have one basic question, which is, if this deal is so good, why can't the public see it?
Even some Republicans are reserving judgment.
I think we'd all like to see the terms of the memorandum and hopefully end up with a real deal.
President Trump is directing his critiques at Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu after Israel struck Beirut, targeting Iran-backed Hezbollah fighters just as the agreement was finalized.
Israel's fighting Hezbollah too long, and too many people are being killed. And you don't have to knock down an apartment house every time you're looking for somebody.
Netanyahu is vowing to keep forces in southern Lebanon as long as needed, saying the struggle has not ended. Iran says their presence violates the U.S.-Iran deal to end the war. Tina Krause, CBS News, London.
The mainstream media keeps trying to basically sell the idea that Trump is isolated. At least that's what they had been saying for a while, that no countries wanted to support him. Yet now somehow every major international meeting turns into everybody talking about President Trump. That's not isolation. That's gravitational pull. The Meloni photos, the Macron handshake, the body language breakdowns, the internet turned diplomacy into basically a UFC weigh-in. Now, the Supreme Court has issued major immigration rulings this week that strengthen the federal government's authority over asylum processing and border enforcement. Supporters argue that the rulings restore order to an overwhelmed system, and I agree. However, the critics argue that they weaken protections for asylum seekers.
Just this morning, huge news from the Supreme Court in Washington, with the justices splitting along ideological lines, siding with the White House in some major legal disputes over President Trump's hardline immigration policies. That includes allowing the administration to remove those TPS deportation protections for thousands of Syrian and Haitian immigrants. The court also clearing a pathway for more restrictions on asylum seekers at the border. For more on this, NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach joining us from D.C. Gary, we know these TPS protections are intended for people fleeing war and catastrophe in other parts of the world. What does today's decision mean for U.S. immigration policy in general?
Yeah, on the TPS case, what they ruled, the Supreme Court, along ideological lines, was that on non-constitutional claims, federal judges actually can't touch those issues. So if somebody's coming with a TPS claim that doesn't have to do with a constitutional issue, they can't touch that issue. If it is constitutional, which is what the Haitian case was, saying there was racial discrimination against the 350,000 Haitians that had been terminated from the TPS program, they say that it's not actually an issue. They rejected that idea entirely. So termination of TPS for just Haitians and Syrians right now, but that's more than 350,000 people, and that could mean bad news for TPS for other countries coming soon.
Right. Sounds like 6 justices found there was no grounds for discrimination. Gary, the docket still has some significant cases that are pending right now, really significant. What are some of the other key decisions we're waiting for right now?
Yeah, well, the biggest one we're waiting for is the birthright citizenship case and whether or not President Trump's executive order limiting birthright citizenship should be allowed to stand and is constitutional. That we expect to come in the coming days. The next Supreme Court decision day will be on Monday, but you see there's several other cases there. We have 8 cases remaining. We think there's going to be 7 decisions left because we think the transgender youth and sports cases will be combined into one, but a lot still on the plate of the Supreme Court before they wrap up for the end of the term.
And a lot on your plate as well, Gary. We know you're going to be tracking all of it. Thank you so much.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking.
The U.S. Supreme Court has just given Donald Trump an enormous win when it comes to his immigration crackdown efforts. This one, not about birthright citizenship. That's the thing you keep hearing all about. Instead, this is about something known as temporary protected status. It's something that could affect hundreds of thousands of people. And maybe it hasn't garnered all of the headlines that you've seen over the last couple months, but it's huge, and the implications could be significant. So the way the law works is it is a law that's passed in the 1990s. Congress set it up for people who are coming from war-torn countries. Think about the earthquake in Haiti, and so many people came over from that, and the idea was they were supposed to be able to enjoy some measure of protection under the law so that they could live here and work here without having to worry about being deported. The Trump administration decides they want to cancel that protected status for people coming from a number of different places, including Haiti and Syria. Immigrants' rights groups sued, and in the lower courts they won. But today the Supreme Court says no. Actually, the Homeland Security Secretary ability to make those types of on-off determinations about who's in and who's out, that is unreviewable by a federal court. So not even getting into whether the designation was right or wrong, federal courts actually do not get to review it under the law. And that's because there's a portion of the federal law that says there is no judicial review. And so the Supreme Court is hanging their hat on that particular portion of the federal statute to say, well, we're not going to even get into this. But they have to look at some of the things that the president has said, in particular about Haitian immigrants, because you've probably seen a number of derogatory statements that President Trump has made about Haitians over the years. The court doesn't want to touch those either. And instead they say, we don't need to get into whether this is racially motivated or not, this ability to cancel TPS. Instead, we're going to say there were some non-racist motivations here, at least as stated by the Trump administration, so we don't even need to get into it. So the upshot is hundreds of thousands of immigrants can now be deported because of this decision. This is the thing that does it. But that wasn't the only huge move that the Supreme Court made when it comes to immigration today. There's been this whole debate about what happens to people who are trying to claim asylum at the U.S.-Mexico border. Once they step on U.S. soil, it's clear under the law that they get to make an asylum claim if they satisfy a whole bunch of conditions. But what if they never step on U.S. soil? What if they're still actually on foreign soil? Well, today, in another big decision, the Supreme Court says if they have not yet stepped on U.S. soil, the Trump administration gets to turn them away at the border, meaning they have to go back to their home country, go back to Mexico. Again, a huge double whammy when it comes to the president's immigration efforts. And we're still waiting to see what the Supreme Court does with birthright citizenship. The U.S. Supreme Court has just given...
If a country doesn't control who comes in, eventually somebody else controls the country. You don't have to hate immigrants to believe that borders matter. Every single nation on earth has a front door with a lock on it. The United States isn't evil for wanting the same thing.
We got the most secure border in history of the nation. There's no free ride anymore. So if he comes to the border, you're not going to be released in the United States. You either be immediately removed or put in detention and have your case heard. But there's no more catch and release. Catch and release sends a message to the whole world. Enter our country illegally. It's a crime, but don't worry about it. Be released in the United States and don't show up for your hearing. Over 50% of people scheduled for hearings don't show up for hearing. And they end up with an order of absentia. That's what caused the crisis the last 4 years under the Biden administration. President Trump stopped all that.
What happened to people who are detained by ICE at the border? And they are living in the detention centers for months, perhaps for years now.
Everybody's given due process. Every case is different. You know, the average length of detention right now is 42 days. I look at that number every week. The average length of detention is 42 days. And that's why we're hiring more immigration judges, so we have hearings more quickly. If you're in detention, you get a hearing within 42 days. If you don't, if you're not in detention, your hearing can be 5-7 years out. That's why it's important we build a detention infrastructure that can hold as many people as possible to get the hearings more quickly.
And so the DHS is now saying that deportation flights are on a record high. Since the Biden administration, a new number is now 900,000 legal aliens reported. Now with the replenished resources at the DHS, how do you expect the numbers to trend for the rest of this year?
Be a lot higher. With 10,000 new agents on, look, People need to understand we got almost 700,000 illegal aliens with criminal records walking the streets of this country, mainly because the sanctuary cities released them. But we got a lot of work to do, so with additional resources, additional money from the Big Beautiful Bill and the reconciliation package, you're going to see a lot more arrest activity go on throughout the country.
The Supreme Court is expected to rule shortly about birthright citizenship. If that ruling does not go the administration's way, what is plan B?
I won't get ahead of President Trump on that. I'll just say this. Birthright citizenship is a main driver of illegal immigration. It's also a main driver of birth tourism from Russia and China. And I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a constitutionalist, but I hope the Supreme Court rules correctly.
Do you have an update on it?
Mm-hmm. Said he's not a constitutionalist. Well, everyone in America should be a constitutionalist. You should know what the Constitution says, and if you can't remember, you should keep one in your pocket at all times, a pocket-sized Constitution. It's $10 or $5 at Five Below. You should always have a Constitution on hand so you always know what your rights are, because you never know when your rights are going to be violated. My Fourth Amendment right was violated. Y'all saw April 22nd of this year when my house was taken from me. So you never know when you're going to need it, and you should have it with you at all times. SpaceX, guys, Elon Musk just became a civilization. SpaceX's historic public debut has continued making headlines. The launch created enormous investor excitement while simultaneously triggering protests and political backlash. Some estimates now place Musk on a trajectory towards becoming the world's first trillionaire. Yay. We have a trillionaire amongst us. Look at, watch him plan.
Who called you the real Tony Stark? Okay, you've got your finger in so many different advanced technologies. As I said, SpaceX, Tesla. Now you've got
He's
Solar
not even there yet.
City and the solar pack that people put in their house.
Lazy 'cause I'm burning for you. It's like a hot sensation. Got this power that is taking me out.
Larry Ellison. Buffett. There's Musk.
Do you like my car?
Past Bezos, past Bernard Arnold.
Welcome to SpaceX.
Look at Bill Gates is way down there. Look at how much, look at this. Look at this visual. Look at this shit. Can you believe it? And he's so bored now that he has to own space, apparently.
Elon Musk is no longer a trillionaire.
And now you have this.
A sink in SpaceX stocks
as
by
of 5 days
31%
ago.
yesterday,
A couple days
along
later.
with the restriction on Musk's Tesla shares, brought his net worth back down to the multi-billions. On June 12th, Musk became the first trillionaire in world history when SpaceX went public, boosting his fortune to an estimated $1.1 trillion. Then, as the rocket maker's stock soared by 40% to its all-time high during the trading day on June 16th, Musk's net worth briefly peaked at a record $1.45 trillion, before SpaceX stock sank by 31% through Tuesday. Thanks to that slump and new restrictions on $116 billion of Musk's Tesla stock, the world's richest person is no longer a trillionaire. Forbes has removed the $116 billion of restricted Tesla stock, representing an 8% stake in the company, from our calculation of Musk's fortune to be consistent with how we treat other billionaires' unvested restricted stock. Musk is worth an estimated $973.5.
Thank you so much, Jack and MC. And Ryan. Yes, my hair turned out so well today, thanks to my new styling tool for old people. My arms were getting too tired to straighten it and blow it out, so I bought a multi-styling tool. Q says, "What's up, Ryan? Elixir's doing well. He's so quiet and docile, but he defends himself well. My dog Ace is nearly 8, and he's tested Elixir a couple times, to Ace's detriment. That's my gray line. That's my gray line. They don't start no shit, but they damn sure won't put up with no shit. My bloodline is a nice middle. They will turn on and throw down when you need them to, but they'll chill in the meantime. They'll stay chill, and they're big love bugs. but fiercely protective over their owners and their home. So yay, Elixir's making a good name for the Mystic Moon brand. Woohoo. All right, let's continue with this.
$5 billion as of Wednesday, June 24th. For more on this story, check out the article at the link in the description.
All right, so moving on. At this point, Elon Musk isn't competing with billionaires. He's competing with the GDP. Some countries have fewer resources than his own companies. The conspiracy theories practically write themselves. If Elon gets much richer, we're going to need passports to enter the SpaceX headquarters. And in other news, did you know Star Wars isn't science fiction anymore? This week, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, observed demonstrations of directed energy weapons, or DEWs, which is a high-powered military laser system that's designed to destroy incoming threats at the speed of light. And former Navy pilot Matthew "The Wiz" Buckley explained that the technology is rapidly becoming essential because America's enemies have discovered something simple. You can bankrupt a superpower with cheap drones. A $500 drone can force a military to launch a missile costing hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. The answer? Lasers. No ammunition, no reloads, no expensive interceptors, just point, shoot, and fry the target. The Pentagon says deployment is expected to expand significantly.
Well, Secretary of War Hegseth just got a live demonstration of directed energy weapons. He says the Pentagon intends to buy tens to hundreds of these in the coming years. It's the first known viewing of a directed energy weapon demonstration by a sitting war secretary. So what are they? Directed energy weapons fire concentrated energy at the speed of light. And for years, intelligence officials working abroad have reported brain injuries known as Havana syndrome. The condition could be linked to directed energy weapons. Earlier this week, we spoke to Emmy Award-winning investigative journalist Catherine Herridge, and she says the domestic threat is very real. Take a look.
But I think this idea that there are domestic attacks and that they haven't targeted civilians is just not correct. It's not borne out by the evidence. And again, the trend that I'm seeing is that the cadence of attacks inside the United States, I think, has escalated. My information is only anecdotal, but I do believe that the 4 years under the Biden administration where we said there's nothing to see here, there's no novel weapon, there's no foreign adversary.
I still have 2 more dogs to rehome, a female, 2 females, if you're interested.
I think this was a tremendous disservice and emboldened those who are behind it.
Joining us now, former Top Gun Navy fighter pilot.
I've been getting nothing but scammers and people who are backyard breeders contacting me for the females. All my males are gone except for the 2 I keep. And then, yeah, it's just been really hard. So, Q, if you know anybody that might want one, share word of mouth. I'll give them away if they're coming from you.
Matthew "Wiz" Buckley and South Pole whistleblower Eric J. Hecker. Great to see you both. So, Eric, you know, Catherine told us also that she has heard potentially there are these attacks that have happened.
If you're interested, just shoot me a message in the chat or send me an email, thirsttrapnews@gmail.com.
Outside the executive office building in Washington, D.C., which is right next to the White House. So for many people who don't understand what these weapons do and they're freaked out by them, how do they work?
Thank you for the Rumble rant, Coach Crispy. Welcome. And he says, hi, Luna and friends. I've missed you all so much. I love you all. Wanted to drop in and say hi. I'm on the road and have been working overtime, multiple jobs. Love you, Luna and family. Thank you, Crispy. Appreciate your rant. That was super generous.
To say it's an extension of Tesla technology, the ability to move energy from point A to point B without the conventional means of, warheads and things like that. A standard weapon delivers an explosion, but through a conventional means. It's a payload. So instead of having the conventional method of delivery, directed energy weapons just deliver that explosive force sometimes from point A to point B wirelessly. That's one method. Directed energy weapons is a very large umbrella term. So make no mistake, it's a varied arsenal.
And you can't see it. So it feels like it's almost impossible to defend against it. We'll get to that in a second. So Wiz, Secretary Hegseth shared that the first milestone test of the Golden Dome for America was a success, and that directed energy was harnessed to eliminate incoming threats. So obviously the Pentagon is wanting to buy these to use them against our adversaries. What do you think of the investment in these types of weapons?
Q, that is Elixir's favorite game to play. Him and his brother Knox would chase each other with sticks. All right. We will be right back after these messages. This Independence Day puts Chicago Steak Company on the grill. For a limited time, order $179 or more and use code AMERICA, AMERICA, to get 16 free 6-ounce premium Angus steak burgers, signature steak seasoning, and free shipping. Build your box around USDA Prime fillets, the ultimate gift assortment, or Chicago's bestseller, and then add the burger bonus for the holiday cookout. It works whether you are hosting the backyard party, stocking up for family, or sending a premium steak gift online. Chicago Steak Company hand selects and hand carves every steak, ages select cuts up to 6 weeks, and has more than 15,000 five-star reviews behind the name. The offer ends June 25th, so go to mychicagosteak.com and use code AMERICA today. Link is in the description. All right, let's continue on with our video.
It's definitely needed, Katie. Obviously, knocking down $2,000 drones with $1 million, $2 million SM2, SM6 missiles or Patriot missiles, just, your enemy can bankrupt you. So we have to deploy these lasers. They're on board Navy ships. They're on ground-based units now. So the economics are starting to level the battlefield here. These direct energy weapons are pretty high speed. They've been in use for a while, and as Eric said, they are a wide variety. But as you alluded to, the Havana syndrome, these have been used for a while, and they can be debilitating. I think the president kind of let it slip that we used some of the stuff during absolute resolve when we went in there to get Maduro. So these, it's a new level of warfare, but it's definitely leveling the playing field.
Yeah, he let it slip actually during our interview with him at the White House. So I'm glad we asked about that. And then he went on to call it discombobulator. But Eric, we don't want the discombobulator to be used domestically against Americans. How easy is it for someone who wants to do harm, whether it's someone from Russia or someone else, to use this kind of technology against Americans here at home?
Oh, all too easy. This is what one of the things that I discussed when I went to Washington, D.C. in June of 23 to testify in 2 skips, one for the Senate Intelligence Committee and one for Arrow. And we discussed that these weapons seem to be in the hands of many factions that are operating without oversight. So this is an absolute threat to domestic America. All enemies, foreign and domestic, we have these factions running around without oversight.
So
there's personnel that are damaged. The Department of War lied about this for many years, saying they didn't know what was causing Havana syndrome. They said they had no idea. Nobody has this technology. Well, guess what? The Department of War this year stated, we possess directed energy weapons and we're scaling them up.
So that's true. I mean, that is true. I mean, Catherine Harris talked about this, how they completely downplayed it. They acted like this wasn't happening, that we certainly didn't have this kind of technology. It's clear now that we do. And, the Secretary of War is now saying, not only do we have it, but we're going to invite more of it. What do you think about them admitting that this is a technology that we're using?
Oh, Katie, I'm going to jump to a different highway real quick. A lot of folks have been talking about UAPs and UFOs recently, and everybody shrugging their shoulders in the government like, oh, we don't know what these things are. Katie, we're talking about energy right now. If you surround something in a field of energy, you'd be pretty amazed at what you can do with it. I'm fairly certain there ain't no little green men from Mars zipping around in some of these Tic Tacs or whatever. And you're probably 10 to 15 years from now, the government's going to come out and say, yeah, those were all our stuff, and we knew it all along. So what the things they're doing with energy right now, Katie, if you can dream it or actually have a nightmare about it, there's somebody in a room somewhere trying to make this thing or already made it.
Well, I've been having nightmares about drones, and now I certainly am going to have more nightmares about this directed energy. At least I can maybe see a drone coming for me, say a couple prayers. But I don't know. Well, thank you both for talking to us about it. We appreciate it. You can check out Eric's work at One Spark Network, Eric Hecker and Matthew Buckley. Thank you for joining me. Great to see you.
I mean, it's pretty crazy. For years, people laughed when they heard terms like directed energy weapons. Now the Pentagon is standing in front of cameras saying, yep, we have laser weapons. We've had them the whole time. At some point, conspiracy theories become basically budget items. When I was growing up, laser weapons were something Darth Vader had. Now there's something the Pentagon orders with taxpayer money. Somewhere, George Lucas is looking around wondering if he accidentally leaked classified information in 1977. This week's headlines all point towards the same underlying question. Who actually holds power now? Governors, corporations, AI systems, global institutions. We watched courts redefine immigration, they say. We watched millionaires gain unprecedented influence. We watched world leaders negotiate shipping routes that affect the price of everything. And most people were too busy arguing online to notice the bigger pattern. The Matrix is a distraction, to be quite honest. The Matrix is being so busy reacting to the daily outrage that you never see the machinery moving behind it. That's the purpose of the Matrix. The real power is not the headline. The real power is basically whoever decides what the headline is. So if oil controls economies and technology controls information and AI controls attention, what exactly will governments control 10 years from now? As the dust settles from the Iran conflict, President Trump is shifting his attention back to an issue that helped return him to the White House: the economy. The administration is attempting to refocus voters on affordability, energy prices, inflation, and the cost of living as the 2026 midterms are beginning to take shape. But Trump's opponents and even some Republicans are questioning whether the Iran conflict could distract from that message. The media narrative this week has been that Trump risks losing focus on kitchen table issues while dealing with growing tensions overseas. And meanwhile, the White House argues that strong foreign policy and economic stability basically go hand in hand.
Welcome to Meet the Press Now. I'm Garrett Hake in New York as President Trump tries to turn his focus to November's elections, even as tensions he's created with his own party and the increasingly tenuous agreement with Iran threaten to stymie his midterm message. Today, President Trump delivering the keynote address at the Faith and Freedom Coalition conference as he looks to rally his base. The president focusing much of his midterm messaging today on Tuesday's victories by Democratic Socialist candidates here in New York, calling them communists and a threat to the country.
And as you saw with the communists elected in New York City recently, they're communists, they're not social democrats. They want to completely destroy the traditional American way of life. It's becoming a communist party. These are not social democrats. These are hardcore, godless communists. They're godless communists. All communists are godless. They don't believe in God. This is the most serious threat to our country since its existence, in my opinion, 250 years ago. This is a major threat to our country.
And it comes as the president is stepping on his own agenda, complicating Republican lawmakers' efforts to highlight their work to lower the costs for voters. Earlier this week, Mr. Trump abruptly announced, to the shock and dismay of many in his party, that he was canceling an event to sign the bipartisan housing bill that passed with overwhelming support, demanding that Republicans pass his overhauling voting access bill first. After a multi-hour meeting at the White House yesterday, Speaker Johnson sounded optimistic.
Very productive meeting. We're on exactly the same page. He wants to ensure that we stop any blockade in the House. Congress has work to do, and that's what we're going to do. The majority party should never be voting down rules. We got to be able to move forward on legislation and continue the America First agenda. And so we're happy to do that. It's another day at the office. This is the process in an era with small margins, but we'll get the job done.
But today, President Trump again expressing his frustration with Republicans standing in the way of the Save America Act.
All voters must show photo ID. Not so bad, huh?
Not
All
so
voters
bad.
must provide proof of citizenship. Is that so hard?
Is that so hard?
Well, you're fighting the Democrats and a few Republicans who are doing a tremendous disservice to this country.
Meanwhile, tensions with Iran are once again escalating, which could further complicate the president's midterm message on the economy. The president confirming today that Iran fired 4 drones at a cargo ship in the Strait of Hormuz, saying the U.S. knocked down 3 of them and calling the attack a foolish violation of the ceasefire. Since striking the deal with Iran, President Trump has been touting the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, claiming it will bring down gas prices. And oil prices are almost back down to pre-war levels, coming down below $70 a barrel for the first time since the war began almost 4 months ago. But any disruption in the Strait or further violations of the ceasefire could threaten that progress. And moments ago in the Oval Office, President Trump reacting to Iran's attack on that cargo ship in the Strait yesterday.
You said that Iran violated the ceasefire. Will they face any consequences?
You'll find out.
Do you consider the ceasefire to still be in place?
I don't like the fact that they took a shot yesterday. Actually, 4. We knocked down 3.
On his birthday.
Not an allied ship, but a ship, a very expensive ship. And it was fine. But it took a little beating. They shouldn't be doing that, so you'll find out.
Joining me to break it all down now is NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Cuby, and NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal. So, Gabe, what did you make of the president's message today? How much of what we heard today do you think will be a consistent part of the midterm message?
Well, Garrett, certainly what you just described, the president referring to Democrats as communists, that's something we expect to hear quite a bit of over the next couple of months, because we have been hearing it now for the last couple of days, ever since those primary victories by those Democratic candidates in New York that were backed by the New York mayor, Zohran Mamdani. Now, President Trump over the last several days has been escalating that message during his speech at the Faith and Freedom Coalition today. As you stated, that was a large part of his message, but but also what we just heard in the Oval Office, this Religious Freedom Commission, this draft report that is now being put forward, recommending basically replacing the idea of the separation of church and state. The president certainly playing to his base right here and trying to polarize the electorate. You have, him trying to play to his base while also denigrating Democrats and referring to them as godless communists, something that we heard several times during his speech today over at the Washington Hilton Gate.
How much is he complicating the midterm play here with these constant infighting with the Republican Party? Do they need to put this sort of behind him, whether it's on Iran or on CEASEFIRE, if he actually wants to focus on affordability?
Well, look, Garrett, you know as well as I do, he doesn't seem to care much about what congressional Republicans think. However, you're right. I mean, he lashed out at what he called grandstanders in the Republican Party overnight after meeting with House Speaker Mike Johnson yesterday. But at the same time, he canceled that signing ceremony yesterday, something that so many congressional Republicans have been looking forward to and looking to make it a part of their midterm message. And now the question is, what happens next in that in this rift between the Republican Party? It still remains unclear whether the president will go along with some of these congressional.
Just restart your app.
Republicans, as their agenda at the moment seems to be stalled in Congress with representatives like Anna Paulina Luna, some hardliners, wanting to bring all of this to a halt. And yet the president says that they're now grandstanding. This is still being ironed out on the Hill, obviously.
On the subject of grandstanding, do we have any update on when or even if the president will sign that housing bill?
The White House has not said whether he does indeed plan to sign it. Of course, now that it's supposedly been transmitted to the White House, it will become law in 10 days. We haven't gotten any indication that he plans to veto it at this point. So it could be that he just does nothing and it becomes law automatically within 10 days. But again, it took away that nice, big, shiny press conference and signing ceremony that many congressional Republicans have been wanting ahead of this midterm campaign.
All right, Gabe Gutierrez on the North Lawn. Gabe, thank you. So, Courtney, I'll turn to you now. What more do we know about the situation in the Strait? Has the president described it accurately-ish?
We don't really know, actually. We do know, the facts that we know to be true are that at least one Iranian drone, we believe fired by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, one drone did hit a commercial ship. The U.S. military shot down at least one other drone. That's really all that we know about the situation beyond what President Trump has now been saying several times today and posting on social media. Now, at this point, we're not aware of any further firing beyond this one yesterday by the IRGC. But President Trump sort of upping the ante on it today when he posted that it was this violation of the ceasefire, as you just read on social media. So now the big question is, will there be any kind of a U.S. Response to the violation of the ceasefire? Since the memorandum of understanding was signed on June 17th, we have not seen the back and forth in the Strait of Hormuz that we were seeing every single day there for weeks and weeks. So it's, again, we're really in sort of a wait and see mode to see whether these threats by the IRGC that they carried out, at least on this one occasion, whether they continue and whether it really does have an impact on the ceasefire going forward.
And Vice President Vance said that the U.S. and Iran had established some kind of communications line to avoid a potential military confrontation. Do you know anything about that? Was it made use of here?
We have no idea about it. We haven't gotten any information from the administration that, number one, that it's actually, that any kind of a framework even exists for what this is, or that it actually has been implemented in any way. Now, the military does have a history of something like this, and you'll recall something called the deconfliction line with Russia that existed for years over Syria. That worked. You had a U.S. colonel, generally with a Russian colonel, on the other end of a phone. It was literally a red phone, and they would pick it up if, in fact, one of them was going to be flying in an airspace that was breaching or near where the other military was operating, and it worked for years, where they were able to deconflict the airspace there. It's not clear if that's going to sort of be the maritime version of that, but we're asking those questions.
And let me ask you about the war within this war. We had Secretary Rubio today announcing a framework of an agreement between Israel and Lebanon. But if Hezbollah isn't part of that framework, what's it worth?
Yeah, and this has been the issue with these talks the entire time now. Every round of these talks is without Hezbollah involved in it, if there is some sort of an agreement for a ceasefire, whatever it is, it's generally not been implemented, at least not fully implemented on the ground in Lebanon. Now, this could be, if in fact Israel has agreed to something that includes them pulling their forces back closer to the border, is it possible that Hezbollah will look at that and will make some sort of a advancement towards some sort of a peace deal? It's possible, but so far these talks have not really yielded a whole lot on the ground. The one thing that is potentially possible is that this could be a step in the right direction if in fact we see some sort of a change to not only the Israeli forces where they are inside Lebanon, but to how they are operating there. Garrett, it's not getting a lot of attention, but more than 4,000 people have died in Lebanon since March. It's a huge number, about 40 Israeli soldiers as well, service members as well. So the fighting there has continued, despite the fact that we've all been very focused on Iran.
Right, it's a major theater within this war. Courtney Kuby, thank you for that reporting. I want to turn now to Ali Canal here with me. And so, Ali, what are we seeing from oil markets? Are they concerned? Are we seeing any kind of wobble in the pricing based on what we've seen in the Strait?
Well, it seems like markets are betting that the worst case scenario has been avoided at this point. We saw U.S. crude oil fall below $70 for the first time since the war began. And remember, pre-war, crude was trading near $67 a barrel. So this is a pretty significant move here. And it comes as more ships are moving through the Strait of Hormuz, those fears that we could be facing a major supply crunch, that's starting to ease. But analysts say that there are still risks ahead. There could be more attacks on some of these ships. There could be mines in the Strait. Obviously, as you know, the messaging has been really back and forth here. So investors are still watching this area and the developments in the Strait very closely.
And we've heard the president complaining about the lag between oil prices really plummeting and gas prices coming down much more slowly. What is that attributable to? And do you think we'll see gas prices continue to fall?
Yeah, gas prices have already fallen pretty significantly at this point. The national average is right now at around $3.90 a gallon, down more than 60 cents from its most recent peak. But gas gas prices do not fall as quickly as oil prices. And that's because refineries, distributors, those retail locations, so the actual gas stations, they're dealing with oil that was purchased at those higher levels. So this is likely going to take some weeks to go until consumers see a significant pullback. And that's, of course, assuming that oil prices stay at along these levels. And also, it's important to remember that we're in the summer months. Demand is usually higher this time of year. So that tends to cause gas prices to drift up just a little bit.
And while I have you, the president has also threatened a 100% tariff on countries that implement a digital services tax on the U.S. Can you just explain to folks what this even is and how it would work?
Yeah, remember tariffs? We haven't talked about tariffs in a little bit.
Still last year.
Yeah, right. This is really about U.S. and EU trade relations. So several European countries, they've considered or adopted these digital services taxes. So it's basically a tax on the revenue that large tech companies earn on the users in those specific countries. So this really affects those big companies like Google, Meta, Apple, Amazon. Now, for now, this is just a threat. But of course, if that goes through, then a lot of those imports from those countries, so those goods that we get from Europe, they could become more expensive for U.S. businesses and therefore consumers. But we'll see. I mean, this could just be a negotiating tool. But again, it's a good reminder that tariffs are still an impact here. We talk a lot about oil prices, even the AI build out, how that's been impacting inflation. But tariffs, they're still working in the background here.
All right, Allie, also still working here in the background on Friday afternoon. Thank you for being with us.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app.
The media keeps acting like Americans only care about one thing at a time. It's very annoying. As if voters are sitting at home saying, well, if I was worried about paying my electric bill, but now that Iran is acting up, I completely forgot about my groceries. Like, Americans are perfectly capable of caring about both. National security matters, and being able to afford eggs matter. In fact, most people would argue that they're connected. Trump's challenge heading into the midterms is not convincing his supporters, to be quite honest. I mean, he's lost about a third of his base. His challenge is convincing the independent voters on top of that the same administration handling this global crisis can also improve life at home. History shows one thing for sure, and that people may vote on the values of the candidate, but they often vote based on what happens at the gas pump. Every election eventually comes down to the same question. Can I afford my rent? Politicians can debate foreign policy for 3 hours straight. Then someone looks at the grocery receipt and suddenly the whole election changes. Notice the pattern? Every election cycle eventually becomes a battle over narrative. One side says, look at the economy. The other side says, look at the crisis. One side says, look at your wallet. The other side says, look at the headlines. The real question isn't which side is right. The real question is, who gets to decide what you're paying attention to? Because the attention has become the most valuable currency in politics. But since we are at the end of the news portion, what we're going to do is we're going to get into a documentary that I have found for you guys. Let me pull it up. All right. Definitely not that one. All right. This documentary, we're going to take a turn. We're going to go into some psych stuff. This is a neurodivergent psychopath that is being interviewed. Her name is Cassie. So we're going to watch that together. And so without further ado, here is Cassie.
I was just telling you, your hair looks fantastic.
Thank you. $50 on Amazon.
It's a wig?
It's a wig. Yeah.
Oh, wow. It looks great.
Thank you. Although when I have my hair the way it naturally is, some people also think that that's a wig. I'm just lazy.
So where are you living now?
Right
Last time
now,
you were in Florida.
Yeah. So the last time we talked, I was in Florida. And
2
right
years
now,
ago?
was it 2 years?
At least.
I think it's important for me to note before we get into this, 99% of psychopaths are not serial killers or murderers. But all serial killers are psychopaths. So this is to kind of break some barriers or maybe understand a little deeper what psychopathy is and how to spot it. And you'd be surprised how many people truly are psychopathic once you learn what it is. It's just the inability to feel what you are feeling. That's all it is. It's a lack of mirror neurons. Mirror neurons is what gives you the ability to look at someone and you can feel what they're feeling, your empathy, what they are feeling. She is also neurodivergent on the spectrum. So let's just get into it.
Year and a half. I can't remember, but
it's been over a year.
Yep.
I don't think it's been 2 years just yet, though.
Maybe a year and a half.
Yeah. So I'm currently in New York now.
How's New York?
It's interesting. I moved to
I'm
New
gonna
York to
slow it
reconnect with
down
my family.
so you can actually
and
watch the nuance of the way she speaks and really get a feel for the conversation. So we're going to take this at normal pace.
Go as well as I hoped that it would. But in New York, I was able to see how people with the same psychological profile as I do live. Since I came out of the closet about being a neurodivergent person with emotional regulation issues, I've met other neurodivergent people with emotional regulation issues. And
Sorry, girl.
It's a handful, a mouthful.
yeah, it is. And some of them are in a different socioeconomic class than I am. And I got to see how my male counterparts live, or people from different backgrounds than I live. And it was quite interesting. Well, I should say it is quite interesting because I'm still in New York.
You were telling me on the phone that your diagnosis has changed since last time. Last time you told me you were antisocial and autistic.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder and autism spectrum disorder.
It's very easy to get a misdiagnosis as a female on the spectrum. It can look like post-traumatic stress. It can look like bipolar. It can look like borderline personality disorder. It can look like antisocial disorder because all those things share similar symptoms. It can also look like ADHD. So it's not uncommon to have misdiagnoses with any of these disorders and to be re-diagnosed in the future.
But having come out, about that, a lot of people are saying, no, you're not a psychopath. Like, I don't think you're a psychopath, but I was told by a psychiatrist and a therapist that I am a psychopath. But I went.
And you can see it on a brain scan, and what causes psychopathy is severe trauma.
Went for a second opinion, and I got another psychiatric evaluation done and a psychosocial done. I met with a therapist, and they concluded that I have something called alexithymia.
Say it again.
They said that I have something called alexithymia. So
alexithymia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I could have alexithymia or alexithymia with traits of psychopathy. When I was diagnosed with AS.
All right. So alexithymia. Oh, okay. It is a personality trait characterized by an impaired ability to identify, understand, and describe emotions. So alexithymia is the inability to describe emotions, often referred to as emotional blindness. They literally have no words for their emotions. You can understand what this when you have moments of not being able to describe what you're feeling. That person with this disorder is like that all the time. So they'll tend to describe physical sensations as opposed to words, like the emotions.
SPD. It was during a point in my life when I was going through homelessness. So during that time, I was engaging in selfish behavior, and
that is one of the markers for psychopathy. What appears to be very selfish behavior.
Doing things that one might say would be psychopathic, but I was literally just trying to survive. So I was stuck in survival mode.
And there's no drug use?
No. I eat
So
too
see
much,
what she said
and that
there?
I'd
That's your
say
drugs.
yes, that is my.
She was trying to survive. So there you hear evidence of trauma right there. I was in survival mode. I was just trying to survive. A lot of times these undiagnosed psychiatric traits can lead to the family members abusing the person with the disorder because they don't know what the person's dealing with, which can exacerbate the disorder and make it worse. So I noticed she experienced homelessness, which tells me there's family trouble, because how do you not have family to rely on? She has emotional regulation issues. She's a very traumatized girl that is on the spectrum, that probably was treated very badly by her family because she couldn't regulate her emotions.
Vice. Food is my drug of choice. But yeah, I do believe that when I was homeless for so long, that kind of like corrupted my morality, because I didn't do anything like too bad. It's just that, like, you know, people would say like, oh, like, how are you? And I'd be like, I'm great. How are you? When I was homeless. Or like I joined a gym to, you know, have a place to shower. I had friends that didn't know that I was homeless, and I'd just be like, hey, can I sleep on your couch? So I was like making friends with people specifically so that I could have food to eat and a place to sleep. And I didn't look homeless because the number one priority for me when I was homeless was to not look homeless and to also like try to find a place to sleep.
You're having a hard time working?
During that time, I was unemployed, yeah. But
Hard time finding work, or?
yes, I was having a hard time finding work because I was severely unstable. I was mentally unstable, I was emotionally unstable, and I was financially unstable. That's when I was 25 years old.
You seem really together right now, though.
I drank 3 cups of coffee this morning.
That helped?
Yes, I'm addicted to coffee. I need coffee or else I feel dead. But yeah, that helped. And also, you said I seem...
And the coffee is a stimulant, so it's going to help light up the frontal lobe. You see that coffee addiction very prevalent with ADHD and autism, because it lights up the frontal lobe, so they're seeking dopamine.
Cheery.
Cheery.
Because you were telling me that you are sometimes considering suicide.
Yes.
And you seem as upbeat and cheery as anybody I've had through here.
Yes, that's what a lot of people say.
In a year.
But seeming is not being. There's a difference between seeming happy and being happy. And what I've learned is a lot of people seem happy and they are not happy.
Yeah, she's right.
For a lot of women specifically, in society, like, we kind of have to pretend to be happy, especially women that are not affluent, because like human beings need each other to survive.
Right.
If I am a Debbie Downer, no one is going to want to be around me. So I have to be happy, upbeat person. And that's part of the reason why I think a lot of people in my life thought that I did not have ASPD, because I'm not a mean person. I don't, what is it called? I'm not violating the rights of others. But the diagnostic criteria for ASPD, I think it's flawed, because
It's
the
antisocial psychopathy.
American Psychiatric Association mainly gets its evaluations from people with ASPD within the prison system.
It's antisocial personality disorder.
So these are people that are on the extreme side of, psychopathy. And now the American Psychiatric Association is realizing that ASPD is on a spectrum. I don't even fit the diagnostic criteria for ASPD anymore. And I barely did when I was homeless. I was diagnosed when I was 5150 when I was homeless, because I was threatening to take my own life.
What do you think you might have? Or, I mean, just to summarize what your condition is, you don't really feel your feelings. You have to think your feelings.
Yeah. So and I apologize if I seem a little
And that wouldn't be being a psychopath. You're still feeling feelings. You can still mirror someone's emotions with this. You just can't explain them. So that would be the difference between the alexithymia and psychopathy, which alexithymia can be misdiagnosed as psychopathy and vice versa.
Out of it, I drank so much coffee. But yeah, I was recently diagnosed with a condition called alexithymia. I believe alexithymia is the inability to determine one's internal emotional state. So I don't know how I feel, and I've had
you don't know if you're angry or depressed or
no,
which is tied to why she can't regulate her emotions,
because I spent most of my childhood suppressing my feelings.
This is a dissociative tool that the brain engages to protect you, and the tool meant to help you can become toxic when it's no longer needed, and then it becomes a disorder. So then you have to work on rewiring the brain.
When I was going through abuse, I'm one out of 3 women that go through sexual assault. I was sexually...
So if you notice the statistic, 1 in 3 women experience sexual assault. So what I have to say to that is shame on all the men that exist, not for the fact that I'm saying all men are alike. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's more good men than there are bad men. And the good men need to start holding bad men accountable. And keep your eyes peeled. And when you see something, do something about it. Don't just keep walking or put your head back down on your phone. Be somebody's hero.
Assaulted at the age of 9 years old. And when that was happening to me, without going into any detail, like when that person was on top of me doing what they were doing to me when I was a child, I pretended like what was happening to me was happening to someone else.
So there's the trauma.
I
the disassociation.
like had to disassociate.
There you go.
Sorry, it's hard for me to like think of words right now. But yeah, I had to disassociate from what was happening to me, and trauma has an effect on the brain.
Yes, it
and
does.
I don't know if I was born with an underdeveloped amygdala, because I recently had a brain scan done, and my neurologist said that I have
Then
a
if
flattened
she had
pituitary
a
gland.
brain scan done, she is definitely a psychopath, because you can see it on the scan and it's easy to diagnose from that point.
Excess cerebral spinal fluid in my brain, and I have an underdeveloped amygdala. So basically all that means is like me not being able to feel feelings. It might have a psychological component, meaning the abuse I went through in childhood, but it's also neurological because my
because it changes the shape of the brain. Trauma actually changes the shape of the muscle, the organ, because those ridges and wavy lines, those things change and move as the years go by based on what you engage with the most in your environment. And when your environment is stressful and a threat 24/7, the amygdala is going to misshape. So, for example, mine is misshapen, it's overgrown. So my alarm bell, I have an anxiety disorder, my alarm bell was always going off even when there's no threat. For someone like her amygdala shrunk because what her mind did to her brain was her mind said, I cannot feel these feelings, so we are going to cut that off, and the mind is not going to focus on it anymore, taking the energy away from feelings, and that lack of energy caused a lack of neurons in the amygdala, and so the amygdala was suffocated in a way, and so it's smaller.
Amygdala is non-functioning, and that's part of the reason why I applied
And just
for
for anybody
medical
who's new
assistance
here,
in dying.
I have a psych degree, a neuroscience certification from Harvard, and a children's rights as well. So I'm also a child sexual assault abuse survivor, cult survivor, domestic violence survivor. So I have a lot of knowledge in this area when it comes to trauma, neurodivergence, addiction, and sexual dysfunction.
Because most of the time I feel little to nothing. Right now, I feel, I think anxiety, but I think that's just from drinking so many cups of coffee and the jet lag and everything.
All right, we are going to take a break right here. Access Med, powered by Trinova Health, is a revolutionary telehealth service that offers fast, free online evaluations and free home delivery of customized compounded medications, offering custom weight loss support, ivermectin therapy, hair restoration, cosmetic rejuvenation, custom ED treatments, and more. You can complete your visit in less than 10 minutes, and there's no subscription or recurring fees ever. We've made getting started easier than ever. Simply follow the link, choose the product or treatment you're interested in, and then complete a quick online evaluation. Within days, your custom meds will arrive to your door. Mention RUMBLE in the coupon code and get 10% off your first treatment. All right, let's get back into our video.
But most of the time, I feel little to nothing. There are days that I feel absolutely nothing.
But you were saying that you were trying to get a doctor to help you with a suicide.
Yeah, and they denied me because they said that my condition is not terminal. They denied me they denied me for my application with MAID, medical assistance.
Your just day-to-day existence is so unbearable that you would rather be dead?
It's extremely unbearable. I feel nothing when I watch TV. I feel nothing when I listen to music. When I dream, I dream like just in black and white. Recently, I started dating. I spent my 20s just not having sex because I thought I was asexual. But I think because of, what I went through in childhood, like some people that go through that level of extreme sexual abuse, they either become hypersexual or they are asexual. So for my 20s, I didn't have a hoe phase. I just told people that I was asexual. And now that I'm getting over my trauma in childhood, I'm realizing I'm not asexual. So, but to go for what you're saying before, like I recently started dating and I broke someone's heart accidentally. And I didn't even think I was capable of that because I see myself as someone that is unconventionally attractive. Like I think I wouldn't say I'm ugly, but
she's cute. There is somebody for everybody and there is somebody for her. She a cute little body. She's a little thick little thing. And she got good taste in wigs.
I think I'm an acquired taste. So the fact that I was and this man was significantly more attractive than I was. So I didn't think that I would be able to break his heart, but he said that I did. And he called me a psychopath. And for me, like I was trying to be normal when I was with him. Like I wanted a normal relationship, even though he said he wasn't my boyfriend because we didn't have sex. But like, I remember like he was holding my hands and he was looking at me in my eyes and he said, "I love you." And I told him thank you because I didn't want to lie to him. And I know like the old Cassie, 25-year-old Cassie, when she was in the depths of her psychopathy, would have lied to him and said, "I love you too." But because I respect him and I admire him and I wanted to have like a real relationship, I wanted to be loyal to him.
That's definitely something I had to work on to myself was the old traumatized me would have just said, "I love you too," also. And I had to really develop the strength on the inside because like every guy fucking falls in love with me, every single fucking one of them. So I just had to start realizing like, if you care about these people, just be honest. And if they care about you as a person, you'll have a friendship. But I had to get through that fear because I was also a sexual assault survivor as a child, and it did cause me to have very dysfunctional behavior in the area of sex. And that is something I also had to learn, what she just described.
Wanted him to know the truth. And he said, like, hold on, I gotta remember. He said, can you feel it? And I said, feel what? Because I was thinking like the love. And he said, no, can you feel how empty you are inside? And I was like, wow. Yes. And now that I can look back on that moment, that was a rhetorical question. But I'm autistic, so I thought that was an actual question.
Right.
And then he started yelling at me. He said he doesn't give a fuck, excuse my language, if I love him or not love him, sorry. He doesn't give a fuck if I admire him or respect him. Like, he wants to be loved. And I told him, for me, love is an action.
Right.
So
well, I understand what you're saying,
my mother.
You can admire and respect your friends, but that doesn't make them your lovers.
That I love her through my actions. I show my sister that I love her through my actions. A lot of people just say I love you and their actions don't back up love, right? So like, I don't feel love. I've never been in love. I don't know what it's like to love, but I have people in my life that I care about their well-being, and I show them that I care through my actions. But for him, that wasn't good enough. And he did not want to have sex.
Which, in her defense, that still is love. Just because you don't identify the chemical reaction inside your body called feelings. Feelings are just a chemical response to your thoughts. Just because you're not getting that chemical response doesn't mean that you're not capable of feeling love. You just aren't identifying it in terms of the sensations, the chemicals, the mixture, and they don't know how to describe it in terms of a feeling. And let's be real, love is not just a feeling. That feeling we get towards someone, that's chemistry, that's chemicals. Love is deeper than chemicals. Love is respect. It is being there in the bad times, not just for the good times. Love is putting their needs before your own because you care about them more than you care about yourself. And that's what love is, simply put. Not the chemicals that you feel, the spark, the electricity. That's just lust. That's the breeding apparatus in you that tells you are physically attracted. But long-lasting love is not that feeling. It's a sapio event. It's occurring in your mind, in your thoughts. That's where real love is occurred.
With me because I couldn't say I love him. And in retrospect, I wish that I would have lied to him. And now if I do go into a relationship in the future, I'm just going to lie because, sorry.
So now she thinks it's better to lie.
Plenty of women do that.
Plenty of women do that, but
and men do too.
Yeah, but I wanted something real, and so like for the past year,
what she doesn't realize is you have to keep that up. Like, you don't be fake just to keep someone. She's just going through the logic here. Oh, okay, well, last time I was honest, it chased them off, so now I'm not going to be honest, so that way they can stay longer. You still got to be authentically yourself and let as many of them leave and freak out as they need to until the one doesn't. You know?
People with emotional handicaps like ASPD, like alexithymia, like anhedonia, like dysthymia. But sorry, I'm saying like too much. I was doing that when I thought I had ASPD. So like advocating for a disorder that I didn't even have put me in positions where I was able to like talk to other people that have emotional handicaps and emotional disabilities. And I'm realizing that like the stereotypes about people that have these conditions are seen through like a neurotypical lens. It's not seen through an empathetic lens. And I think that's one of the reasons why the American Psychiatric Association is debating on whether or not they should change, not change, but that if they should make a condition called, what's it called? Empathy deficit disorder, or emotionally handicapped, or emotionally blind, or emotionally disabled. Because since coming out, of the closet about my problems with feeling emotions, I've met other people that have problems with feeling emotions, and they do not fit the stereotype of a psychopath or a sociopath. And I don't condone psychopathic or sociopathic behavior, especially people that are on the extreme end of the spectrum, because those people include rapists and murderers, and yes, let them rot, they're pieces of shit. But there are people in the middle that are just living in a perpetual state of emotional burnout and emotional numbness. I've met nurses that have told me that they feel dead inside, but you would never know because they're happy and they take care of people, and they are the nicest people you will ever meet. But they've emailed me, and I live in New York, which there's so many people in New York. I've met, a lot of people, and they're when my colleagues are tired or, just can't take it, and a patient is going crazy or won't let them take their blood, they call me because they know that I could handle it. So talking to a nurse that has an emotional handicap, people wouldn't never, ever, ever think, wow, she's a psychopath. Or I've had teachers email me and say, I have to check my emotions at the door when I go into the classroom. So they're going into a classroom and they have a smile on their face and they're teaching the youth of America, and they feel dead inside. So these are teachers, these are nurses, these are women that work in law enforcement. It's mostly women that email me. I think it's because I'm a woman. But women that work in law enforcement that are also emotionally handicapped, but they are able to do their jobs and do them well, and no one would ever know. And within their friend group, they're not telling their friends, I feel little to nothing. They are just, I think most people would say, if they did know about their, friend or family member having this condition, they would be shocked, like mine were, and say, oh my gosh, were you lying to us all this time? Were you manipulating us? And I'm like, no, these individuals, especially individuals that help maintain the infrastructure of society, society's, law enforcement, education, healthcare. Yeah, these women are just they're trying to survive, and there's no accommodations made for the emotionally disabled. They don't feel safe saying, I don't feel anything, or I feel little to nothing. So they email some girl online that they saw an interview. I've done several interviews, and I was in the closet about my disorder for 5 years. And then when I came out of the closet and started talking about it, that's when I started to get friends. And I really thought oh my God, people are going to treat me like crap because I have this condition. And most people are just fascinated. I never thought that a brain scan and a psych eval would get me clout. But I guess it kind of has.
So your ability to be cheery and laugh and all of this is an act?
Yes. Because I have to act. I have to put on a mask of sanity. If I were to be in my normal state, which I have been around my family, which is part of the reason why they don't want to be around me, I would be talking with a monotone voice. I would have a low blink rate. And the sociopathic stare, that's another thing.
Can you turn it on for us, or turn this act off?
It's hard because I pretend every single day.
It's what you do all day long when you're awake.
Yes. Not because I'm a bad person, but because I have to survive. I have to.
So you're like an actress.
I'm an actress in my own life, and it's not a way to manipulate anyone, because like
It's just because she's
my
still
brain,
stuck disassociated.
right?
She's aware of it now.
Like the autonomic nervous system controls your blink rate. So people that have an underdeveloped amygdala, it sometimes can affect their nervous system, and that can affect your blink rate. And I do have a low blink rate. I have to remind myself to blink, right? And that's something that stresses me out. A lot of neurodivergent individuals, especially those with emotional regulation issues, have high blood pressure because we are and when you say acting, it kind of sounds bad, but coping would be a better word.
Coping's a better word.
Yeah, it is a coping mechanism for me to pretend to be normal. And I know I don't really look that normal, but
No, I mean, well, the impression I get is that you're very cheery and you're content and happy and living a good life.
No, I scared my mother.
The thing is, this hits close to home for me. I would say as a parent, it's tough when you realize what you didn't know when you were earlier on in your parent journey. This is a tough one for me. You know, this lady here likely is traumatized by her family shunning her as well, which makes it worse and makes it harder to heal. And that's something families don't seem to understand, is how much harder they make it on someone who's trying so hard to have a functional life when you're not supportive even through the dark times and the bad times.
And not intentionally, but my mother was terrified of me. So I moved back to New York to be closer with my family, and I spent Thanksgiving with them, and I was pretending to be normal, masking my neurodivergence and my atypical behavior like I do on the daily. But I had to sleep over, right? Because like it's Thanksgiving and blah, 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 and everyone is coming over. And I live in a Trinidadian household.
Oh my God.
So there's a lot of curry and jerk.
Curry. She said it the way, yeah. So y'all know I'm half Trinidadian. My mom's from Trinidad. Hilarious. See the synchronicities that happen in my life? How did I know this was going to come up in here? That's hilarious.
Chicken and a lot of food and a lot of drinks. And for me to keep up my mask of sanity for more than 24 hours, it's hard. Sometimes the mask slips, and I don't do like bad things, but like I forget to blink at a normal rate, or like my voice gets deep, and like sometimes like I'm doing things that like to a neurotypical person doesn't make any sense. Like I was at Thanksgiving at my aunt's house, and I didn't even know it, but I was like staring at my mother, right? And I don't know, like she had on an outfit. She looked really nice. She was wearing a waist trainer, you know, like she had her hair done, her makeup. I was just like, she looks nice. Like, but like I wasn't masking, and my mom was looking at me, looking at her, but I didn't feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortability was something that I had to learn over time. Like the sociopathic stare, like when I am staring at someone, which I try not to do, when I'm staring at them, it's not with like ill intent. It's usually because that person looks interesting and they're interesting to look at. And they, like, I don't usually notice that they're upset until like their face looks angry.
I understand what she's saying, because I do
and
that.
then I'm like, okay, I should look away.
I do that.
But like, I don't like they are uncomfortable.
People will be like, what is she staring at? And then you'll realize that they're thinking that, and you're like, oh, I'm staring and I need to stop staring. But you're staring because they're interesting to look at, not in a bad way.
Because I'm looking at them, but I'm not uncomfortable because the part of my brain that's supposed to make me feel uncomfortable doesn't work. So, so they're thinking, excuse my language, why the fuck is this girl staring at me? Is she gonna hurt me? Is she gonna rob me? Like, what's happening? Because we're human beings and we still have that primal instinct that when like a stranger is staring at us, like, and they're not smiling and they're not blinking, something is wrong.
Is that more the autism or is it the other disorder?
It's the underdeveloped amygdala. Yeah. And
I don't know.
The hate
would
that I
say
received
that
online
could be
after
either
coming
one.
out of the closet when I was diagnosed at the time with ASPD, a lot of people were mad at me, and that's part of the reason why I deleted my TikTok and I deleted my Instagram, even though I had like over 100,000 followers. I never thought I would have 100,000 followers, but I had to delete it because people said that I was perpetuating the narrative that autistic people are sociopaths, that autistic people can't feel.
Wow.
And that's not a narrative that I was intentionally trying to perpetuate. I was diagnosed with ASPD and I thought that I had it. And then recently they diagnosed me with alexithymia. And now I'm trying to figure out, well, like, how do I learn with how do I learn to live with alexithymia?
I mean, you can live with it, but
if you wanted me to not mask, you should have told me earlier, by the way, because like, I have to look in the mirror and like remember like, okay, like be like this, blink, like be happy. But like, I have to kind of like remember like, okay, just be yourself. Like when I get home.
Do you want me to get you a mirror? I can get you a mirror right now. A big one.
I need like 5 minutes to decompress from the
Some of her
coffee,
story
from
could be bullshit if she doesn't want to
the
do it.
masking. But I mean, like if that's what you want, sure.
I just think it would be interesting to show how
you want me to be real.
How you change.
Yeah.
We can try it. I can edit it out if it doesn't work.
I think I wish you would have told me earlier.
If you don't want to do it, we don't have to.
Next time, because
Okay.
then I wouldn't drink coffee.
There you
Coffee is a stimulus, you know. I'm stimulated right now.
Mm-hmm. But like this cheery demeanor that you have now, you're smiling, you're laughing.
Track with me.
What are you really feeling? Like
right now, little to nothing. I feel.
And that's got to be really.
She was feeling uncomfortable to look in the mirror.
It's hell.
It's hell.
It's hell. It's hell.
So she can identify that it's hell, but she can't identify. She knows that feeling. I'm calling some BS on her a little bit.
You can't have your heart broken. You can't fall in love. You can't.
No.
Get excited.
No.
You can't. You can even get sad.
I don't feel positive emotions, but I can feel negative emotions. And that's part of the reason why I became a Christian.
Okay.
Because
all right.
I could so I could understand why psychopaths kill. I would never kill anyone. But when you feel nothing, it's a dehumanizing state to be in. Right? And you feel like an object. Because you don't feel like a human, because you look at other people and how human beings are supposed to be, and you realize that you're not like that. So it would be very easy for someone that wasn't trying to be a decent human being to take another person's life, because they're not viewing that person as a person, because they don't view themselves as a person, because they can't, because they're disabled, because the part of their brain that's supposed to be able to feel positive emotions is disconnected. So... God, sorry, what was your question?
No, I just find it interesting. Like if somebody gave you a winning lottery ticket and you just won,
I would pretend to be happy.
$50,000, $100,000, you would not feel any joy?
No.
But you would pretend to?
Yes.
Because it's appropriate?
Yes.
Socially appropriate?
Yes. And I would plan on giving my mother and my sister some of that. But I wouldn't feel anything. I recently did not recently, but a couple months ago, I did a collaboration with...
I think psychopaths or antisocial, people that have antisocial personality disorder probably get a really bad rap because it's on a spectrum, I would imagine, and you're not a murderer or a killer or a...
No, it's a disability. It really is. Seeing, breaking that man's heart, I don't think I'm going to find a man that's that attractive or that financially stable again. I just don't, because I'm overweight, I have crooked teeth, and I have mental and emotional health issues. the fact that he liked me, it was interesting, you know, but like all he wanted was to be loved. And he even told me he felt loved by me, but I couldn't say it because I didn't want to lie to him. And when he was yelling at me and screaming at me and I was just standing there, he said, "Why couldn't you lie?" And I was like, fuck, I should have lied.
That's all men want.
Yeah, I should have lied.
This, I'm telling you, just breaks my heart. Breaks my heart. Hopefully you guys can read between the lines on this one. I'm not going to say directly why, but if you've been paying attention to me since last September, you know why.
But I wouldn't want someone to lie to me because I can't feel love. So to me, love is honesty. Love is transparency because We're
going to go for about 2 more minutes, and finish it tomorrow.
I don't feel the emotion. My mother, she was scared because she said, she was like, "Cassandra, I thought you was going to hurt me. You're staring at me like that." And I was like, I do a horrible impersonation of my mother.
Trinidadian accent.
She's from Trinidad. She has a thick Trinidadian accent. But
Trinidad.
I was like, no, like I don't even remember staring at you. Like I just thought you looked cute. But like
even your family doesn't quite grasp what you have.
No, when I was younger, I would get slapped a lot. They would tell me to fix my face and they would slap me because I had a monotone face.
My mom would say, "Fix your face."
And I was staring at people.
They call it a bitch face? Is that what they call it?
Resting bitch face. Yes, I had a resting bitch face. And they did not feel comfortable around me. And they would just reprimand me. Because that's how Trinidadians are with younger kids. If they're doing something wrong, they pop them in the face. But yeah, I told my mom, like, if I was displaying these atypical traits, why didn't you take me to a doctor? Because I'm in my 30s and I do not know how to have, I've never had a boyfriend. I recently had my first hookup and even that was unpleasant. And I only did it because everyone was, I fell into the peer pressure because they told me, like, it will make you feel better. And I did it and I felt nothing. And also that other guy, I heard that hookups don't really turn into relationships, but he wanted to turn the hookup into a relationship. And I told him, I don't feel anything for you. I was using you as a masturbatory aid.
So you've had 2 guys now who kind of developed feelings for you and you had nothing to give them.
Well, the first one, I was really trying. I was really, really trying. And I did everything correctly. I was kind. I listened to him. I cooked for him. I tried to make his life easier. But he wanted me to be authentic, but he also didn't want me to lie. And
okay. It's very interesting. Very interesting. We'll be right back. You've probably noticed Rumble is growing fast and it's not slowing down. They're building a real alternative to big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech. And now there's Rumble Premium, an easy way to upgrade your experience. With Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform. No pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content you came for. Plus, Premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind-the-scenes drops, and more from your favorite creators. Right now, Rumble is offering $10 off an annual subscription. Just go to rumble.com/premium and use the code STUDIO at checkout. That's rumble.com/premium, promo code STUDIO. No ads, more freedom, and content you actually care about. That's the deal. All right, my friends. Well, this week reminded us of something important. That the people in charge don't know everything. The experts disagree. The politicians improvise, and the billionaires experiment. The media pretends it all makes perfect sense, but that's why critical thinking matters. That's why asking questions matter. And that's why having a sixth sense matters. Not because it makes you smarter than everyone else, but because it reminds you that reality is usually bigger than the story we are being told. So until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and keep looking beyond the headlines, because sometimes the truth isn't hidden. It's just buried under a mountain of noise. I'm Luna, and this has been the 6th Sense News Report. Good night, my patriots, and hang tight if you want to hang out for the raid.
I'm not your gossip girl, I'm the headline. Truth with a curve, baby, redefine. Welcome to the thirst trap. All the truth looks good in a tight wrap. We talk love, power, soul, and sin. Turn the world on, let the light in. We are the thirst trap news. You'll drink it up, it's the real you. Never trying to first news, where every headline's a revelation.